Hello, welcome to ANA community. Today, continuing with the case history portions, we have initially started with the chief complaints, which is being followed by history of present illness, previous history, treatment history, family history, personal history, and social history. In this particular video, we are going to discuss about environmental history. So, what actually meant by environmental history? When you say about environmental history, we are going to notice about the status of surroundings of the environment of an individual. So, when you say about this, first of all, a person should have in which particular desha the person is actually residing in, whether is it Jangala Desha or Anupa Desha or Sadharana Desha. In which particular area the person has born, whether is it in the Jangala Desha or Sadharana Desha or Anupa Desha. Why so this particular informations are necessary? Because the persons who are suffering, who are residing in Anupadesha, they are most frequent sufferers of kapha dominant diseases. And the person who is suffering, who is residing in Jangala Desha, they are most frequently may have the disturbances related to abnormal Vata dosha. Whereas Sadharana, in case of Sadharana Desha, the person will be having the diseases somewhere midway between these as such. You may have Vata dosha dominant disease or Kapha dosha or Pitta dosha dominant diseases depending upon one's diet and lifestyle. So when you think about this is the image that is showing Anupadesha. So that means more and more places where there is a possibility of the presence of water, probably stagnant water, etc. That means the water level is up to very super, that is being present for the large abundant water as such. Whereas the other image that is showing very little amount of the water on the surfaces. That is, in these cases, naturally the person may have the Vata dominant diseases maximum extent, to a lesser extent with the dominant diseases may be possible. Whereas in this Anupadesha, naturally the person may have kapha dominant diseases. This may be the what do you say that the Anupadesha and the Jangala Desha, wherein this may be the image where there may be a possibility of the Anupadesha, where you see the depth of what you say that the wetness, you can see even much deeper. Whereas in case of this, the depth of water is much superficial itself. So see the nature of the plants grown here, whereas the nature of plants grown in Jangala Desha will be like this. This is another way of identifying the Anupadesha and Jangala Desha. So regarding the food habits of these people, so if these are usually being consumed in one particular locality, so this is what we can say that there may be a possibility of a kapha dominant disease more common. If the person is taking Amla Rasayukta Daivi, there may be a possibility of a Pitta dosha dominance. Whereas this is the image where the more and more amount of Katurasa Pradhana Ahara that is being taken. So that means the person may have either kapha dominant, or either Pitta dominant disease or Vata dominant diseases. So when you think about, let us say about the dosha dominance and skin changes itself. So this is an image where you can see the Vata dominance properly. See the dryness of the skin and peeling of the skin that is going to take place and this is specifically seen in the ring finger and even around the thumb region. See, this is what we can say. The vata dominance can be observed. Whereas this is the image where you can see the redness as such. So that means there may be a possibility of a pitta dominance. Whereas this is the image showing the oiliness of the skin on the surface of the skin, that is usually indicative of a kapha dominance. So we have to connect the nidana being consumed by the individuals of that particular locality, and we have to see the whether the persons are having any kind of the clinical manifestation related to those dosha dominance and connect it so that we can be in a better position to identify the actual disease manifestation in an individual. As far as regarding the questions that may be asked in environmental history are, what kind of the climate a person is having exposure, what kind of the geographical location of the residential area where he is living. Suppose if a person is living in Kulu or Manali or Ooty, etc., which may be the dampening place where the person may have kapha dominant diseases are more common. If the person is residing in desert like places or where there is less amount of the water is being saved, there may be a possibility of a vata dominant diseases. In this way, the climate or geographical location will be helpful in determining the disease manifestation. Regarding the duration of stay in a residential area with a location, when you are going to say the person is habituated, some persons may say habituation may be there if the person is residing in that particular locality for a period of 7 days or so. Some persons may say 21 days. Some persons may say 30 days. So like that. So there is the duration of that stay that may be helpful in determining the actual dosha dominance in that particular locality. That means when the person is habituated to the food habits in that particular locality, so naturally that may have an impact on the health of the person. Suppose if the person is changing the place, you have to note about regarding the change of the place, how many days, since how many days he was having the earlier location and since how many days he are having the new location as such. Travel history regarding the whether he has recently traveled to a different place, whether he has what kind of the area where he has resided, where he has uh, taken a stay, how many days he has stayed in that particular locality, etc. comes along. And other details in the sense regarding the other aspects related to the stay, what kind of the food habits they have taken there in that particular locality, etc. that has to be inquired. As far as seasonal history is concerned, aggravation of the certain symptoms are specifically seen in particular seasons, or otherwise in even some other occasions, particularly time of the day also may be responsible for the aggravation of the symptoms. For example, exposure to the sunlight, the persons may have headache. So, whereas aggravation of the symptoms specifically in fever in rainy seasons, whereas there may be a possible impact of contaminated water intake that may be possible, or otherwise there may be a possibility of exposure to the mosquitoes, that is, which may be responsible for vector-borne diseases. Exposure to sun rays for longer amount of time, the person may develop heat stroke. Whereas exposure to cold breeze, the person may develop the episode of bronchial asthma. So To sum up, the take-home messages from today's discussion are environmental history actually gives us the details of the place and environment an individual is exposed to frequently. What kind of the food habits the person is adapting and what kind of the food habits adopted by the people of that particular locality that will count a lot. What kind of the seasonal changes that are noticed in that particular locality that has to be noticed that has to be documented. Dear ANA members, what are the major key takeaways from today's session? Mention in the comment box below. And what is the one particular topic that you would like to hear in the coming videos? Mention in the comment box below. And if you are liking this particular video, then put a thumbs up and spread this particular video to maximum number of Ayurveda learners so that we can make a huge movement out of this particular research. That's all for today. Something more in the next video. Thank you.